What's going on, everybody? I'm Primalliquid, and welcome to my top 5 things that everybody should know when starting Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. Now, these are going to range from kind of simple to some pretty interesting little tricks, okay? And depending on how you make of these, you could really change up the way you actually play the game. And no, these are not going to be the really simple idiotic things. However, there are going to be a couple of those, okay? So let's start on the first one. This is by far the most probably obvious thing for older players. However, newer players won't know this, and that is that actual random encounters do level with you. Now, I know just from hearing that you might end up thinking along the lines of Final Fantasy VIII, for example, where once again enemy encounters do level with you except for bosses. Well, it's actually a little bit different, but also kind of the same. So as you can see right now, I do have a couple of level 99 characters and so on and so forth. That means random fights, so only random fights. Okay, story fights like these over here will still have set story levels. However, random encounters, so any of these little dots, for example, yeah, all of these encounters will level with your character. So if I start this fight right now, you will end up seeing. Now, this is actually both a really good thing, but also a really bad thing. Now, what happens if you push your level up to 99 ASAP, for example, chapter 1, which yes, you can do. This video is being recorded in chapter 3 right now, for example. So, you know, do keep that in mind. Basically, what happens is random battles in this game are a lot harder than story battles. Okay, story battles are actually pretty simple and straightforward. Random encounters are where you get all the trouble because of the enemy level. And as you can see, that enemy chocobo is level 99. Now, yes, I do have a couple of level 99 units in my party. However, I also have a level 59 white mage, for example, which is, you know, a little unfair, isn't it? One of the downsides with this, okay, is enemy units, so monsters, for example, are actually pretty strong. So with them basing off of the higher level character, that means you can actually get yourself into trouble. Because if you do it too early, you might not have any good job combinations unlocked, or you might not have the gear to really help you, because gear is a little interesting in tactics. However, that is a whole different video. Now, you can really level yourself up incredibly quickly by using the focus command, which you don't really want to do, okay? This is actually really important. You don't want to do this unless you know what you're doing. If you know how to get some good job combinations going, then you will be fine. However, if you do push enemy levels too much, while it is possible to lower down in some stages or by using a specific monster, you obviously have to get to those stages, level down, and then be able to complete those stages. And monster stats are pretty brutal. Like, look at that. That chocobo has 20 attack and 62 magic attack. Now, if we look at my Ramza, who's level 99, I have 9 normal attack and 21 magic attack. So yeah, enemy stats can be very difficult, to say the least. And these are monster units. You can also encounter human units as well. However, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now, while we are actually in this fight, let's actually go ahead and talk about point number 2, shall we? And that is, don't sleep on chocobos. Now, there's a reason for this. In order to actually get a chocobo, firstly, you do get a story chocobo. Well, you have a chance to recruit a story chocobo. However, another way is via using the orator job. Okay, via using the orator job, you can use the entice ability, which then basically allows you to capture a chocobo. If you use entice on the chocobo, it may or may not join you at the end of the fight. Basically, don't worry, you'll know if the skill worked or not, so you can just spam it every other turn. Now, the reason I say don't sleep on chocobos, okay, is they are unique. They are very unique. Why? Well, if we take a look at these characters, obviously right here, you can see all the blue squares, right? This is my movement range. However, no, I don't have enough movement range to move the whole way across the arena. The only reason every single square is blue is because of the teleport ability. As you can see on the character stats at the top there, I actually only have 3 movement. Likewise, with this white mage here, that has 4 movement because I do have the movement +1 ability. You can get movement +2 from a thief unit. Oops, wrong way. Yeah, you can get a +2 movement and jump 2 from a thief, and likewise, if you want +3 movement, that comes from the dancer and the bard class. Oh, no, that's jump 3. Never mind. But yeah, you can actually get movement +3. Is it ninja? It might be ninja. No, it's not ninja either. Oh, well, but yeah, there is a movement +3 command. I'm guessing that's bard. Anyway, the reason that chocobos are so important is if I just defend with these characters just because they all have teleport on, we don't care about teleports or anything like that. We're actually going to show you guys what chocobos are really best at. And this is actually a really good thing, okay? So right here, as you can see, my white mage can move a few different spots. Yeah, it's not much range at all. However, chocobos have an innate 6 movement, as you can see right there. And what makes chocobos really, really unique is that if you get a character, move it on top of the chocobo, you can actually ride it, okay? Now, obviously, we're just going to end the turn right there, and then we're going to go back to the character. And what that is going to do, okay, is that basically allows that white mage to use all the white mage abilities, use its attacks, and so on and so forth. However, the movement of that character is now going to be based on the chocobo. As you can see, we now have a huge increase in the squares that we can actually move to. So let's just move all the way up here right now. And of course, the chocobos can indeed fly, which means you can get over cliffs easier, and so on and so forth, making it an excellent, excellent, excellent movement choice. And of course, if we go into abilities, as you can see, I can still use all of my white mage abilities. So we just do that. Problem solved. We can still use our white mage. Now, obviously, you do lose access to the chocobo abilities doing this. But again, chocobos are definitely best for movement, except for red chocobos. But that is, once again, an entirely different video. So yeah, those are definitely two big things that you really, really want to pay attention to. Now, let's talk about the third. Okay, and once again, we're actually going to talk about this in this fight. I know, it's crazy, right? So earlier on, I mentioned if you level up too much, enemies do level up, and it can become incredibly, incredibly difficult. Well, there is actually a combination of jobs which you can use to really, really offset this, namely the monk. Now, you unlock a monk by having a level 3 knight, which in order to get the knight, you need a level 2 squire. So basically, very, very easy to actually unlock the monk. Now, the monk is very interesting because, like monks in basically every FF game, when you don't have any actual equipment in your main hand, so no swords, no daggers or anything like that, the monk will do incredibly, incredibly high damage. Now, right now, this level 85 monk, it'll probably deal about 300 damage per hit. So if I just move it next to this dog really quick, let's go ahead and take a look at the normal attack. So that is 238 attack, okay? That is actually a really, really good attack. However, you can also combine this with the ninja's dual wield ability, right there, allows the unit to wield a weapon in each hand, even if not ninja. Certain weapons can be equipped in this manner, allowing the unit to attack twice each turn. And this does allow the monk to attack twice barehanded. Now, if you want to get the ninja, okay, in order to actually get the ninja, what you need to do is you need, there we go. So in order to get the ninja, basically you do need to actually first unlock the Geomancer, which in order to get that, you need to get the monk up to level 4. So again, pretty simple and straightforward. Once the Geomancer is level 2, you also need to level up an archer, which in order to get archer, you need a level 2 squire. So basically, if you've already got the knight and the monk, you're going to have the archer as well. Then you need to get the archer up to level 4. This will unlock the thief and the ninja. Then to fully unlock the ninja, you also need to get the thief up to level 5. So once again, that is level 2 squire, level 4 archer, and level 5 thief. This will give you the ninja class. Then once you're on the ninja, all you need to do is head on over and unlock dual wield. This is hands down one of the most broken combinations in the game. So if I attack this pooch right here, so again, that was 450 damage in a single turn, which is a huge, huge amount. One thing to note as well, however, is that Powell character, that was actually my weak ninja. Sorry, my weak monk. So this is my actual good monk right here. If I move him up to this little goblin, and then we go to attack, as you can see, I do 462 damage. This is the exact same setup, same gear, same everything. The only difference is Esmond has actually leveled up in slightly a more stat maxy kind of way. And of course, it is a higher level. So now, if I attack with this unit, that's 462 and 462. This is kind of going to be the combination that would essentially allow you to just not care about what level you are. Okay, so if you want to rush early on and unlock all the jobs and get level 99 so you can get ninja throws and stuff like that, you definitely want at least one dual wielding monk, because he's going to be your big boy killer. Obviously, you can also go the summoner route, but I think monk and dual wield is definitely a lot more versatile. So definitely a build that you really want to try and go for. Now, that is the first 3. Okay, that is the first 3. Let's talk about the 4th one right now. And you actually just saw a slight example of this. You saw that my white mage died when it was riding a chocobo. That is because, unlike in most other Final Fantasies, healing in FF Tactics is actually incredibly important. Obviously, you can only have up to 999 HP. And following that, okay, enemies can deal quite a lot of damage to you. As you saw, I was taking 200-300 damage right there. Now, if you get up against some ninjas with dual wield or some just regular human enemies, you are going to take a lot of damage very quickly if you are not playing super tactily. So what this means is, obviously, you want healing. And of course, all the healing does indeed come from the white mage. So things like Curager, Ryza, Rise, and so on and so forth. The downside with this is they are slightly AoE, but everything needs to be right next to each other. And of course, you need a good healing stat as well, and they're expensive on the MP. There is a way around this, however, and that is actually going to be using the Arithmetician. Now, the Arithmetician is located right here. In order to unlock this, you need to get a Chemist up to level 2. Then you need a level 5 White Mage and a level 5 Black Mage. By getting both of these, you'll also unlock the Time Mage, which you need level 4, and you'll unlock the Mystic, which you need at level 4. Doing all of this will unlock the Arithmetician. Now, Arithmetician is kind of awkward, because in order to actually use it properly, you kind of need to get all of these skills. Now, these aren't actually skills to use. These are targeting skills. So, for example, what you would basically do is I can target EXP, yeah? And then I would target either prime numbers, multiples of 5, multiples of 4, or multiples of 3. So if I did multiple of 3, for example, on target EXP, as you can see at the top there, that EXP is 90. That is a multiple of 3. So this unit would be targeted by anything the Arithmetician does using those commands. And by doing this, you can actually target all of your characters at the same time for AoE-wide heals, raises, buffs, and so on and so forth. The only downside is you can also target enemy units with this. It will target all friendly and all enemy units. So you do have to be a little bit more tactical to use the Arithmetician. However, using that for healing, raising, buffing, and so on and so forth is infinitely better than using a dedicated White Mage or Black Mage or Time Mage and so on and so forth. Because the Arithmetician can use basically any spell from any caster. So one way of checking if the Arithmetician can use it is go into Learn Abilities on your mage character, then press square, okay, and can you see at the bottom right where it says Magical Effects? Reflectable, castable with Arithmetics. And you can keep going down and down and down. So obviously Curager is not castable with that, but Curager is. Same with Raise and Arise. They are all castable with Arithmetics, and of course, Holy is also castable, meaning you can easily target every enemy unit with Holy and just annihilate everything in a single button press. Super good combination, and honestly, definitely worthwhile actually trying to really learn how to play with the Arithmetician. It is hands down the most broken unit in OG Tactics once you get used to it, but it does take a little bit of learning. Now, with that said, let's talk about probably something a little bit more on the slightly advanced side, okay? And this is going to be tip number 5. So for tip number 5, random encounters, okay, have set enemies in a sense. So it has a set pool of enemies for each location that it can choose from. This is both good and bad. So what this means is if I go to Garland right now, okay, so obviously this is a city, so there's never going to be a fight here. If I was to move from Garland to Mandalia Plain, yeah, there are only 4 enemies, well, technically 5 enemies that can ever spawn on Mandalia Plain. That's going to be the Chocobo, the Goblin, the Red Panther, and very, very, very rarely, the Knight. Now, the common enemies, Chocobo, Goblin, and Red Panther, you're pretty much always going to get those. Those are really common. As for the very, very rare enemies, you'll have maybe like a 2% chance to see these. Now, the good news with this is human enemies actually level up their gear equipment based on your level. So, for example, right, if you wanted to get, say, the Thief's Cap or the Luminous Robe really, really early, because I'm pretty sure both of these are like Chapter 4 items, you can get these incredibly easy by actually just stealing them from human enemies that have already leveled up. Now, the most common time to encounter humans is actually in story battles, but obviously story battles, they don't level with your characters. So if you want to get really incredibly OP gear early on, level up your characters, get a thief build, which basically you want to use a monk for this. Use a monk, change fundaments to steel, and then obviously you want to learn the actual thief abilities, which is going to be like steel helm, armor, shield, weapon, and so on and so forth. Then by doing that, you can get really overpowered equipment very, very early. Now, that is one thing. So I just mentioned about how the Knight can appear on Mandalia Plain if we go from Garland, okay? If we go to Egros right now, and then if we go to Mandalia Plain from here, the enemy units are actually going to be different. So the common enemies, which is Chocobo, Goblin, and Red Panther, they're all the same, they're common. However, the rare enemy has now changed because we are entering from a different side. This will also start you on a different area of the map as well when you actually start the fight. So if we were to enter from Egros, we actually have the chance to fight an enemy squire or an enemy archer. So we have no chance of fighting the Knight if we go from Egros Castle to Mandalia, but we can fight a archer or a squire. Likewise, if we go down to Brigand's Den, so if we went from here up to Mandalia Plain, yeah, we would actually only ever be able to encounter a Chocobo, a Goblin, or a Red Panther. There would not be any way of encountering any different enemies there. However, this is only for Chapter 1. Chapter 2 and onwards, and so on and so forth, the enemies do change based on the chapter. Now, likewise, okay, there are a few different ones. For example, if we are to go up here to, wait, where are we? I will find it. I will find it. So there's Fotherum Windflats, okay. So if we go to Lenilian Plateau, we're just going to ignore these battles for the sake of the video. So if we are from here, right, if we are here on Lenin Plateau, and then if we actually go up to the Foverham Windflats, okay, we can get a random encounter here where the common enemy is actually the Pisco Demon, which is really important. If you use the Entice that I mentioned earlier in the video for getting Chocobos, if you use Entice on the Pisco Demon, you can then just run around a couple of stages, kind of like what we've just done, and your Pisco Demon will lay eggs. The level 3, or should I say tier 3 of the Pisco Demon is the Mind Flayer, an enemy unit which can use level down, allowing you to level down all your characters really, really quickly. So you can get super, super good strategies going with that. Now, obviously, you are going to need a big list of, you know, what enemies spawn from what directions, their rarity, and so on and so forth. Obviously, I'm not going to include them in this video because then this video would suddenly turn into an 8-hour little monologue going over every single battle. But yeah, a quick Google search, you'll easily get that entire list. I'll also try and pin them all in a comment. However, I do think there are going to be way too many to actually fit in YouTube's character limit, but I will try. And there we go, guys. That is 5 tips and tricks that I think everybody needs to know when playing Final Fantasy Tactics. They range from super common to slightly more advanced. However, all 5 of them massively open up the way you play the game. And likewise, there's just a couple of tips as well to help you actually progress if you do get a little bit stuck. With that though, everybody, we are going to be ending this video. I hope you've enjoyed, and I really hope it has proved helpful. And of course, if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop them down below and I will reply to you as soon as I am able to. Likewise, if you want to see even more Final Fantasy Tactics stuff, then take a look at the description. At the very top of the video description, there is a link to a playlist with all my Final Fantasy Tactics guides. We are going to have so many. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss them. Or, alternatively, you could also just hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content. Until next time though, everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.